Hello, and welcome to the fourth edition of the Next Man Up podcast. If you listened to last episode, which was episode 3, you will know that this is a two-parter. Like, this is the second part of a two-part episode. So, this episode we do talk about our way too early power rankings. Me and Jacob both share those with each other and react to each other's rankings. We do it in like a tier list format. It'll be pretty entertaining, I think. I really like this episode. It was fun to record and to make and everything like that. We ended up with like 3 hours worth of recording between these two episodes that we recorded in one night. Well, across 2 nights, but if you want the whole story for that, just listen to the last episode. So this is technically the second episode. There'll be like a jump cut in the middle of this one where like we come back and it's the next day. You'll be able to tell when that is, and we kind of announce it. And that's just because Jacob had a run, and he also had like technical difficulties, like his Adobe crashed while we were recording, so we had to like backtrack and record further back than where we actually reached, where we thought we were still recording. But Jacob wasn't on his end because his Adobe had crashed. So it's like my second time reacting to his Dark Horse tier. But that's really it. The stuff after that is like an actual reaction from me, initial reaction from stuff. So, I think it's a good episode. I'll let you guys get into it. Just make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. Follow the feed if you're listening on Spotify. I'll let you guys get into that right now.
So we talked about tier lists in the middle of GOAT Talk there a little bit, but we are going to move on to. We had the idea of doing a power rankings, but Logan had the idea of kind of morphing it into a tier list instead of going 1 through 30. We've selected, I think Logan has 6 tiers, and I have 7. My 7th one's kind of a joke and fits in with the bottom. But, Logan, you want to start at the bottom or the top of our little tier list that we have?
The bottom or the top, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Let's see. I kind of want to start at the top, but...
Okay, yeah, let's do it then.
Is that cool?
Yeah, okay. So, people watching on YouTube, if you're mindlessly not paying attention, now we will have a graphic pop up with the top teams, and we're not sure how it's going to look like yet, but we're going to make a graphic. Those of you listening on Spotify, thank you for listening, and if you're on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Spotify, you can subscribe as well, can't you?
Follow the feed. Mm-hmm.
Yep, follow the feed. Be sure to do all those things. Thank you, and Logan, take us away with your top, and the name of the name of the tier. I almost said list. Yeah, the name of the tier, and then what it kind of means, and then the teams you got in it.
Okay, yeah. So for my first tier, I named it Championship or Bust, and really what that means to me is that for you to be in this list, you have to be a team that is one of the prohibited favorites. Vegas odds are going to be super high on you for the whole season. Basically, you have the talent that you can easily say that team can win a championship, and also they have to have at least the feeling around them that if they were to lose this year, if they were to not win the championship, then that would be a pretty major disappointment to the fan base and the organization. And, maybe there could be a year where a team doesn't even fit in there. But I'd say most years there probably are at least a couple. And this year, the teams that I have up there, first is the Lakers. And, with them, it's like they're running it back. I think they have clear ways to improve their roster around one of the best duos we've ever seen. And, LeBron and AD. And they could, they have targets this offseason. They could add Gallo for cheap, Danilo Gallinari, who has said now that he's prioritizing winning this offseason instead of money. and then also D Rose in a trade. There's been rumors of them targeting him in a trade this year, which he only makes $7 million, and he's on an expiring contract, so that would be a pretty easy trade to get to the amount for. And then the other team I have on this tier is the other LA team, the Los Angeles Clippers. And I know, we've been joking on them a lot ever since they were eliminated in the playoffs, lost that 3-1 lead against the Denver Nuggets. But this year I think is really going to be a revenge tour for them. They have immense talent on that team. That's undeniable. I think Paul George is definitely going to have people forget 2 years ago he was third in MVP voting. He had a really good season. He's a very good player, has a very awesome, amazing skill set. I think what's lacking on that team, as everybody said, is the leadership. Kawhi and Paul George neither of them are really known to be leaders. And then they have personalities on the team like Lou Will, Pat Bev, Montrezl Harrell, who all have pretty big egos. So personality-wise, it's kind of a clashy fit. But with a change in leadership at the head coaching position in Ty Lue, who is somebody that's taken a very similar situation with a team that was expecting to win but didn't, in Cleveland in 2015, and turned them into a championship the next year, or turned them to a champion the next year, just with being able to make adjustments on the fly, which was a big thing that Doc Rivers was knocked for this past season. Even though he's a Doc disciple, I think a change in leadership to him could make a pretty big difference. And also another thing I love is Chauncey Billups being hired as the assistant head coach. That's something I love to see. I think Chauncey Billups would make a great coach in this league, and I'm happy to see him get his start. But yeah, those are the two teams that I have in my first tier.
I only have one team. As you were talking, I decided that. So I have one team, and it's the Lakers. I think that they are the clear favorite. They should be the favorite. But I put the Clippers at the top of my next tier because they have their franchise should have the mentality of championship or bust. But we saw a lot of holes and problems with their team this year. And this is before the draft, before they can fill all those holes, fix all those problems. Yeah. So that's why I have them not in my top tier. I only have the Lakers alone in that top tier. Because, yes, there's things they need to do, but I feel good like they could beat almost. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, if my life depended on it and there was any matchup in the NBA, I'd still take the Lakers type of thing.
And this is going to be a thing that I touch on later on with a lot of teams, just because this is the way too early power rankings. We have no idea really what a lot of these teams look like coming into the next season because the draft hasn't happened.
It's more looking at what they are, what they were, and what the rumors are what they might do, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So would your mind change with the Clippers at all if you heard rumors of a Paul George for Bradley Beal type of trade?
Yes.
It would?
Yeah, I think Paul George is the problem with the locker room.
You do? That's fair.
I don't think guys like him. I don't know. I don't want to say like. But, like, there was rumors that when he tried to give a speech, we'll run it back next year, guys were rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be the number 2 option on a team, that's not it. And you're the vocal leader because Kawhi's not the vocal leader on that team. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, Kawhi can ball. That's how he leads. Like, there's some big problems. And I think Chauncey Billups and Ty Lue were the step in the right direction to fix the problems they had. So good on Steve Ballmer for that. But I do not, like, if they get rid of Paul George, and it's not his play on the court. It's just the locker room dynamic that's a lot more important than I think people realize. So
that's fair. That's fair. For sure.
That's where I'm at for that top. So I have the Lakers for mine. And what we'll probably do is we'll have like a side-by-side and show both of them just so you can see as we go what we both are thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
And yep.
Do you want to do the next tier?
Yep.
Okay,
so
cool.
we tried to label our things the same. So they're called legit contenders is the next tier. Right? That's what we're going next. Legit contenders.
Legit contenders. Mm-hmm.
So this is the list that I have a little bit bigger. It's tied for my biggest category because I think there's a lot of teams, and I also kind of treated this as that one move away type of team where if they do one thing, like they're a contender now, but if they do one move, they are a big favorite for me personally. So I've got the Clippers, and that big move would be Paul George type of thing. I've got the Bucks because Giannis is gonna. I feel like Giannis is gonna be on not a revenge tour, but we're gonna see. It seems weird, but we'll see Giannis do a lot more little things than what he was doing last year. It'll be like I don't like. He's still gonna dominate, but I think Giannis will take a step into being more of a team type of guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Make his team better around him.
For sure.
So I got the Bucks there. I got the Heat there because I think they're going to be a free agent destination, and I think that they still got the pieces around him. Jimmy Butler proved he can command a locker room if the guys and coaching staff around him aren't soft, and Miami is a great place for him to be. I've got Golden State because Steph Curry and Klay, I think, can carry you to be a legit contender between just that duo, and they've got a defense that can poke at those all-star type of guys. Like Draymond, granted, he's a little washed up, but he can still be annoying to guys like LeBron, still be annoying to guys like Kawhi, AD, stuff like that. He's a little slow, but the principle's still there. Then moving over to back to the East. From the West, I've got Toronto, because I think that they were in the playoffs, but there's some guys that had to step up that might not have been ready for the lights, and I think they will be this next year. Spicy P. Pascal Siakam specifically. Then I've got the Nets because of the Kyrie KD thing. I think that makes them contenders. And then Boston because I think they're a Miles Turner away from being a very scary team.
Wow. Yeah, that was a nice little one that you threw in there at the end. I'm glad that we're doing this because I'm glad when we disagree at least.
I think it makes for better stuff too because I knew that this one and then my dark horse, you're going to be like, why is that team there?
Oh, okay.
There's one team specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
And you're also, there's a team I didn't have on there that you're also probably like, where are they?
On this tier or the next tier? Yeah.
This tier.
Yeah, there is one. Just because I have, this tier is a little bit smaller for me than is you.
Yep.
I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams on this tier.
And I think I have 7.
Yeah. So first off, I have Boston. They have ascending talent. I think Kemba is going to be at least as good as he was last year. This upcoming season, he's not going to be declining at all, at least yet. I think he still has years in his prime. Gordon Hayward, a lot of people might not mention this, but I think he's, another year away from injury, and that's a good thing.
No, for sure. And I also don't know if he takes his player option. If he declines the player option and signs for less.
For this offseason?
Yeah, I've heard grumblings of that, which wouldn't mean a whole lot for this offseason, but for the next offseason, it would clear up a lot of money.
Yeah,
because I think that, I don't think that the Celtics are going to do him dirty by, if he does sign it, you know what I mean? But I think that he's reached an agreement that he's not the same player. And this is rumors. Obviously, all of this is rumors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know how you would turn down that money, but that's beside the point. Anyway.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ascending talent, like I said, with with Tatum and Brown, Marcus Smart, one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, and I think
got a jersey.
Yeah, I think they could definitely add an essential big this offseason. But that could be huge for them.
Miles Turner.
An example of that is like Serge Ibaka, who's an unrestricted free agent this offseason. I think he could be like a Superman version of what Tice does for the Celtics.
Yep.
Tristan Thompson is another, energizer, rebounder, guy that can be big for you. Just that type of thing. And you got the 14th pick in this year's draft, which can use to get a pretty nice 3-and-D option.
And that is the sweet spot for this year's draft, which we'll talk about
for sure.
A different episode. But
yeah.
That is, we've both agreed this is the sweet spot from 10 to 15 anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And also Brad Stevens is hungry. I think there's been some slander on Brad Stevens' name after this playoff exit from this year, and I think
we're gonna see some fire.
Yeah,
yeah, Brad, go
for sure. I think he's a competitive guy, and he'll try to do his best this year. And I believe in Brad as well. I don't have the T-shirt, but I also believe in Brad.
We trust.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the T-shirt. That's why my voice sounds weird.
Yeah. And so then the next team I have on this tier is Denver, and that's my team for people who do not know. Murray showed off this year that he's he's a really tremendous offensive talent, and could make some big defensive plays when it mattered this year, which before he was a joke on defense, and now he's definitely elevated his play on that end of the floor. And then obviously Jokic and them just continuing to grow alongside each other. Then MPJ on the up and up. Will Barton will be back. I think there's moves to make. One that really interests me is like a Drew Holiday trade, which we might talk about another time. But yeah, definitely some pieces to move around to upgrade the team. And even if they run it back as is, I think this is a really solid squad. Hopefully re-signing Jeremy Grant this offseason. I'm pretty sure that's just a formality at this point. But so I had Denver on there as my second team on legitimate contenders tier. And then I have Miami next, which, Jimmy is just Jimmy. And Hero and Bam are on the up. I think they'll lose Dragic, I'm pretty sure, and free agency most likely this offseason, just because they are saving cap room for the 2021 offseason. They don't want to have any long-term contracts signing anytime soon. But, they could collect some smaller pieces in this offseason. And then I have Milwaukee next, which, I do think this is a Giannis revenge tour year. He's just that competitive of a guy that I think that is what this is for him. And they do have some serious changes that they can make to their roster to get them over the hump, to build better around Giannis. And, one of those things is trading for maybe a guy like Chris Paul, or honestly, maybe even a guy that they should have re-signed a couple of years ago, but they didn't, in Malcolm Brogdon. But pieces like that could really help them. And I think could make the world of difference for Giannis and this Milwaukee team. And then the last team I have on this tier is Brooklyn. And, Katie and Kyrie, obviously a very enticing duo. They have a very, solid talent around them. They'll probably move LeVert and other pieces for a third star. At least that's what the rumors are this offseason. But even if they keep those guys, they have a ton of talent there. Kyrie scares me, though. First-time head coach also kind of scares me, even though I think Steve Nash will probably do great, at least eventually. This team is just kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. And then KD's Achilles also scares me. Roster fit and personality and skill set wise even raises questions for me as well, just because of what we just saw with the Clippers having, at the beginning of the year, it was like, whoa, they have all these guys that can do all these things. But we see with all those creators on the same team how that can clash a little bit. And this Nets team definitely does have a lot of shot creation with KD, Kyrie, LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, just from those four. That's just a lot. But yeah, that's my tier 2 legitimate contenders.
How's it going? So this is hopefully you can't really tell, but this is the next day. I had something come up, so I had to dip really quick, and then it ended up being longer than I anticipated, like much of my life is. And so we are the next day. It is now Wednesday, October 21st. We just got done going through our championship favorites, or our championship or bust tier, and the legit contenders. So you just heard those, so you don't need me to recap those, but those are a day old for me. So Logan is going to lead us off on this next one with the dark horse tier, which is like you want to describe what that tier is before we jump into it?
Yeah, for sure. So the dark horse contenders, I kind of thought of them as like teams that theoretically, like if you thought, imagine they would be in the finals at the end of the season, you'd be surprised. Like that'd be like, oh, whoa. But you also could be like, I guess I could see how they could get there. They see the talent that they could use to get there, and stuff like that. Also, you could just think of it as like second round teams, or something like that, which I think is more of the way Jacob did them. But
yeah,
either way, I think this is going to be a wider range for both of us. I don't remember how many teams you have in this one, but I have like 7. So. Yep,
I got 5. So
okay.
It's not my smallest one, but it's just kind of right there in the middle.
Yeah. Actually, I have 5 too. I'm bad at counting.
It's okay.
So yeah, my first team on this dark horse contender tier is Utah. And Donovan Mitchell, he's next level, and he's shown that he can be like the offensive engine of a team. He took like an undermanned Jazz team to Game 7 against the Nuggets and averaged like something ridiculous, like 38 points per game. That series. And Conley, I think he'll come back and have a better year. I think he'll have another high-end level season this year. I think he's going to be like 33, 34 this year, but I think his game ages well. And also he had, a rough start to last season, getting used to the new system with the Jazz, but he really showed up in the playoffs, and I think that is more of what we'll see from him. And then Bogdanovich is also back, and he was really the main piece that they were missing last year in the playoffs that kind of made everybody kind of sleep on them going into the postseason. And he was a really reliable shot creator for them. And then Gobert, obviously, he one of the best defensive players in the league. He ensures that a team that he's on is a top 10 defensive team in the league. He's shown that every season so far in his career. So, yeah, they'll have just more of that. And then my next team is Dallas. For obvious reasons, Doncic has proved to be a top 10 talent in this league. Some people put him top 5. You could, have arguments about that. But, and then we have, Kristaps Porzingis, who obviously is a up-and-coming talent. He's kind of entering his ages where you could start calling it his prime. But I think he's really going to start dealing less and less with injuries as he goes on. Hopefully, maybe that's wishful thinking, but it kind of reminds me of how people were talking about Anthony Davis just a few seasons ago, about how, this guy can never get healthy. He'll never put together a full, effective season. And, look at AD now. So maybe something like that could happen with KP. And I think he is a really nice piece to be the second man to Doncic in this potential Dallas dynasty that they might have on their hands. I know a lot of people don't really agree with that. They don't think Porzingis is the right guy to be the second banana to Doncic here, but I think he fits in well there. And they also have really good pieces around them. And Trey Burke just exploded onto the scene in the bubble for them last year. I think they're going to re-sign him to a pretty cheap contract. He'll be a really cheap backup point guard and who can do a lot for them. And then they got Seth Curry, who also balled out. Lots of shooting around them. Maxi Kleba is a guy that I'm pretty high on as a really nice, really surprisingly good at defense.
Yeah.
He's
Speaking of who's always been high on Maxi Kleba? Who is that person?
That would be you, Jacob.
Yes, because fantasy basketball, Triple Dirks has been my name 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to get the Triple Dirks. That being Luka, Kristaps, and the man Maxi Kleba. I use a draft pick on Maxi Kleba.
Yeah. Which he ended up being like a okay piece.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Okay, not really worth it because I took him in the 7th round, but
yeah, and we only had an 8-man league, so yeah, but
yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there for the public as the lore of the podcast grows. Maxi Kleba is a homie.
Yeah. But yeah, so they have really good developing pieces around them too, and then what scares me about Dallas is their tendency to give up leads. And also, obviously, KP's health is another, red flag for sure, even though I do have wishful thinking about it. And then Golden State is the next team I have, which I'm pretty sure you had them. I'm trying to remember
as
from yesterday.
As a legit contender.
Yeah.
I had them as a contender because I feel like just Clay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have them as a contender.
Which, maybe I'm wrong putting them in here, but for me, this is really tough. There's a lot of really good teams in this top 10, especially. And they're basically ending up at 10th for me. And, Steph, Clay, and Dre are all back, and that's a force to be dealt with for sure. But this Western Conference is super competitive and also very different than anything that they've faced before. You're kind of dragging and dropping them into a whole new world from where they last were competing as a team together. And they also have Andrew Wiggins. Obviously people have their opinions about him, but they've got some other young developing pieces there, and obviously the second pick in the draft. They have tons of moves they can make, moving that second pick and some contracts around. I heard one today that was very fun and interesting about maybe them acquiring Blake Griffin in a deal out of Detroit, and that would be something that would be very entertaining. But yeah, so I have Golden State here in this tier as well, and then Toronto is my next team. I think they were.
I also had them as a legit contender.
That's what I was about to say. I think you had them high too. For Toronto, they're lacking star power for playoff success. Also, Kyle Lowry, I think, is going to be 36 next year. I think either 35 or 36. I'm just not sure about them. They do have a lot of those undrafted guys that are, they need to re-sign now because they were on two-way contracts. A lot of their impact players like Chris Boucher and, some of those guys, Terrence Davis, some guys that were legit in their rotation are now in free agency, and they're going to have to pay them more than what they had them at, which was like minimum. So I don't know if they're going to be able to get all of their guys back necessarily. Also, I think they might.
34. Kyle is 34.
He's 34 right now.
Yes. So
Okay.
he will be 35.
Yeah.
Most likely. I don't. When's his birthday? I'm sure that's on Wikipedia.
Yeah. But yeah, while you look that up, also I think they might lose Serge Ibaka this offseason. Just because there is a pretty big market, I think, right now for Serge Ibaka, showing that, like, with the Lakers winning this year, showing the size definitely does matter a lot in the NBA. And Serge Ibaka is one of those guys that can play really huge for you, be a nice rim protector, and also stretch the floor as well as just about anybody playing his role. And, for me, I'm eyeing the Celtics picking him up. I think that would be a super nice move.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
Not as nice as Miles Turner.
Yeah, that's true. That would be cool, too. But
Actually,
you'd have to give stuff up for that, though, because he's on under contract.
Serge Ibaka would be a nice pickup for sure.
Yeah, he would be. The only, he could do basically everything Tice does, other than maybe Tice is a better playmaker. I don't know about that, though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he can't be as like just wily as Tice, maybe. I don't know.
But he provides better rim protection. I think he's a better shooter. I just think he's overall just a better player.
No, I'm not trying to discount that Serge Ibaka is better than Daniel Tice. That is a state of fact.
Yeah.
Right there.
But I think he would fit in great.
Every form of the way. Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that one.
And then next I have Philly. Lots of talent. I'll review these two. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about each one. But Philly, lots of talent there. Obviously, that's undeniable. That's really what puts them in this tier for me. Even though they're very uncertain, I don't know where they'll end up. But just the amount of talent that they have allows them to make all kinds of moves to kind of go with a bunch of different looks of how they want to approach this next season. New leadership is something I like there with Doc taking over as head coach. But yeah, like I said, very uncertain. Have no idea what they're going to look like. But just the amount of things they have on that team, I think they probably should end up somewhere in this tier. Because, I could see a way for them to get to the finals. I could see if they somehow made a trade to get off some contracts like Horford and either Embiid or Simmons, probably Simmons, and build a competent roster around Embiid, and Embiid goes like balls out for a season. I could see that. So it's unlikely, very unlikely, but it's within the realm of possibility, I would say. And so then the last team I have on this tier is Portland. And that's just because Dame Dalla, he is a nightmare to defend. One of the best offensive players in the league. Yusuf Nurkic is back at full strength. He really showed what he was worth in the bubble. They didn't play super well against the Lakers, but I would blame that on coaching. I think I've talked about that before. I might talk about that again sometime, but I don't think that was any personnel issues with the team. I thought the kind of the lineups they were rolling out there was problematic. But yeah, so they have Dame and Nurkic, very good pairing. They work really well together. Nurkic is a very good all-around center. CJ is a great secondary creator. and can run the offense with Dame out. Gary Trent has emerged as a nice 3-and-D talent who was not missing like at all in the bubble and guarding guys way bigger than him. Zach Collins is coming back from his injury. Hopefully he's going to be 100%, and I think that's pretty exciting. I like him as a nice young player. I think this is really the key for me that would put them into this tier for sure, and what I'm counting on, kind of what I'm banking on, because I think they will. But they just need to add some wing depth this offseason because that's really where they're lacking. They do have Melo playing a lot of minutes at that position, but I think he, at this point in his career, is more of like a second unit scorer type of guy. I think they need more of a 3-and-D type piece, like a Trevor Ariza, but maybe go younger. They have the 14th pick in the draft this year, which is where they can find somebody really good like that. Actually, not the 14th. Celtics have 14th, but Portland, I think, has like the 16th. But they could get somebody in that range that can kind of fill that role for them, which I think would be good. But yeah, so just to recap, I have Utah, Dallas, Golden State, Toronto, Philly, and Portland on this tier.
Okay. My tier. See, so we had like technical difficulties combined with me having to go. So Logan knows these.
Yeah.
But pretend you don't.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember the teams exactly, but he remembers the wild card.
We could maybe... Actually, I already deleted it. I already deleted my reaction to... But they were pretty genuine and surprising. But I'll try to recreate it.
Okay, so when I saw Dark Horse, I had kind of a different thought in my head. Because what we did is Logan texted me, like, I sent a bunch of ideas as a joke. Like, they were more joke categories, like making fun of, like, a team. Anyway, but then he sent back, like, the list we're using as the list we were going to use. And so my idea of Dark Horse was a little different.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think these teams are championship, like, Dark Horses. But some of them... Yeah, no, I'll stick with it.
It's kind of like super dark horse. Like if they were to win, like the world would turn upside down type of thing.
Like this city would lose their. Anyway, I'm gonna just go Phoenix. That's not like crazy, but I think Phoenix has got a lot of things in place. I feel good about their young talent. I think that they're gonna figure out that if they don't play Kelly Oubre as much, they're a better basketball team. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's why I got Phoenix here. Obviously, Devin Booker is a guy. I don't want to say a great value. He's a great basketball player.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to have the potential to be able to carry a team to a very high level, which we saw him do. I hope they carry on that bubble momentum. I think DeAndre Ayton's going to kind of figure out what his role is in the NBA a little bit more next year. Going into year 3, I think that'll really help him.
Yeah.
And then I just think that the pieces down there will just kind of finally grow into their own. And they'll finally get things finally rolling in the right direction, which has been weird because they've been on the cusp of being in the right direction for what I feels like has been so long.
Yeah.
Because like even when like DeAndre Ayton wasn't there, like they lost a lot, but it was always by like 7. Like it was always close. And so you thought like, they get that one guy, they'll get over the hump.
Yeah.
And then they like never did.
And then also going into every season, everybody always seemed high on Phoenix. Like it was always like, look out for the Suns this year. That was like 3 years in a row, and they ended up at the bottom of the West.
Yeah. Big sad. So I got Phoenix. Dallas is my other one that's in this spot. I pretty much the exact same reasons, Logan. I really like Luka. He showed that he is more than just a solid regular season basketball player. In this playoff run, kind of, it was kind of like a exclamation point how he carried himself in the playoffs. So that's why he's the biggest reason I have. Well, obviously besides Maxi Kleba, but just kidding. Luka, I just like what they've got going on in Dallas. Mm-hmm. I think they can do big things, and they've got a really solid core to build off of. I've got Denver on this tier. The reason I put Denver on this tier as opposed to the tier above, which I believe is where Logan had them.
Yep.
Okay, so I put them on this tier because I saw what they did in the bubble, and I like fully believe that like they're capable of doing that. But I think they're like one move away from being that legitimate contender / Jamal Murray being more consistent, because like Jamal Murray offensively is really gifted.
Yeah.
but he's always been really gifted, but it's only ever been for like 2-game stretches.
Mm-hmm.
And this bubble was a lot more of it wasn't just a 2-game stretch. But,
it was like a 5-6 week stretch.
Yeah, no, and I'm not trying to take that away. That was great. He played absolutely out of his brain. But I don't know if he'll be able to replicate that. Like if the bubble having to focus on basketball actually helped. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
also,
Yep.
he added 15 pounds of muscle before the bubble, which he points to a lot as the reason he's better now, basically.
See, and then if he comes back just the same, then I will 100% believe that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and strength will help you defensively. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's obviously Denver's biggest problems for me is they've got a lot of 2s and 3s that can play defense, but not anything else. I don't know how to word this. They've got guys that can play defense and guys that can play offense, but none of them are in the same body.
Oh, okay.
Like, they don't have guys that can do both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Maybe I hope Jeremy Grant really turns into a much better offensive player. I think he's a pretty shaky one right now,
yes.
But he would be the closest to that of what you're talking about.
But they have guys that are, like, outstanding defenders and guys that are outstanding offensive talents.
Yeah,
and
true.
really nobody that's in the, like, they're the two extremes.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. And then also, with Denver, I am just curious to see how things move forward coaching wise, and if that, not that I don't think Mike Malone's a good head coach, but Michael Porter Jr. is going to be a big part of whether the Denver Nuggets are an NBA champion at some point in time in the future, whether it's a trade involving him or him getting a more advanced role. I think that he's a big part of them going over the next hump. So Mike Malone having this weird, like, I don't want him to play mentality is just weird to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
That's all. We could go into Denver. You could talk about Denver for a long time.
Yeah.
Which we can do some other episode. I don't know what we'll do. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
To give you more talk on each team. But that's my thing for Denver. I got 2 teams left, right? And these are the 2 that are a little bit more, woo. Anyway, okay. So OKC is the next one. I think Shea's going to take a big step. I think Lou Dort is going to be less of an offensive liability. And I think so that's they've got. I'm just excited to see Steven Adams, Lou Dort, Chris Paul. I think will have a similar season to last year. I don't think he's gonna fall off quite yet. I don't know why. It's just in my belly. I'm just feeling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did they hire a coach yet?
No, I don't think so.
See, and now I just remembered after I made this list and said, okay, see, they don't have a coach. I don't know. And that's why this is the way too early.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, true. It's also way too early because I'm the complete opposite direction from you on. I think OKC is where we differ the most.
Really?
But we'll get to that later.
Okay, yeah, for sure. But speaking of coaching, do you want to throw this in now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just since yesterday when we stopped recording, in between then and now, there's been I think 2 head coaching jobs that were handed out of the I don't know if it's record breaking, but like 7.
Plethora.
Yeah, there was like 7 jobs open this offseason. It's kind of weird. But Stan Van Gundy got hired down in New Orleans, which I think is a pretty good move.
I like that. No, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Stan is okay, hold on. Stan's okay, this is gonna he's chunky, right?
He what?
He's the chunky.
Yeah, he's the bigger one.
And his brother's the
small guy, yeah. Jeff.
Okay, that's okay. I wanted to make sure I didn't get the wrong. I would have liked either of the Van Gundys getting a spot because I feel like they've never really gotten. Anyway, that's beside the point. I like the hire. Yeah. But that happened.
Yeah, he led Magic to 4 straight 50-win seasons. One of them being the 2009 finals. They lost to Kobe Bryant and the Lakers, but still that was a team way ahead of its time in terms of like floor spacing around a lob threat and Dwight Howard. But yeah, he was a pretty innovative coach, and I think he could do a lot with Zion. The other guy that I would have liked to see there was Mike D'Antoni, but honestly, this is a step in that direction, I think, as far as game planning wise. So I do like that move.
Okay, yeah, no, for sure. And then the other one, and it's not hard to pronounce.
Nate Bjorkgren, I think is how you pronounce it.
Bjorkgren.
Yeah.
BJORK Gren.
Yeah.
And that is a Raptors assistant, so he's part of the Nick. I don't know if basketball does this as much as football. The coaching tree.
Mm-hmm.
He is part of the Nick Nurse coaching tree.
Yeah.
And if he's got an ounce of the ability of Nick Nurse, this will be a good hire for them.
Which I've heard from, I think, Jackie McMullen and some other reporters that Nate was actually he's basically the associate head coach with the Raptors, so he was the lead assistant.
He was doing a lot.
Yeah, and he also apparently thinks very, very similarly to Nick Nurse, and they were kind of really close friends.
If you're going, then he worked with Nurse before, and with the Iowa Energy, which is just a random team because Nick Nurse's story is wild. He's been on staffs with Nick Nurse before.
And he was also the first one to say boxing one ? In the finals with Steph Curry. So apparently he has big ideas like that and tricks up his sleeve.
Wow.
So
yeah.
But yeah. So I think that's pretty exciting for the Pacers. I think they're hoping they found the next Nick Nurse, and they might have. So who knows?
Yeah. Maybe. But you know who the next Nick Nurse is?
Yeah.
Brad Stevens' child. Just kidding. Anyway, back to the actual tier list. The reveal that you've all been waiting for. Potentially, this isn't hot takes with Jacob, but Atlanta is my next dark horse team. The Atlanta Hawks. You did not hear me incorrectly. The Trae Young-led Atlanta Hawks, flanked to his right by Kevin Huerter, the ginger, flanked to his left by John Collins, and coming over the top, the man we never got to see play basketball for Atlanta, Clint Capella. I think Clint Capella revolutionizes this team, and they explode and become what this year's Brooklyn team was without Kyrie and KD. But they're just spicy, just fun to watch, spicy. Like I said, dark horse, little bit confusing.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't even care.
That's okay.
They're the dark horse.
Yeah.
They're a dark horse.
No, they are.
The Atlanta Falcons are gonna beat the Los Angeles Clippers in 7 in the finals. I didn't say Falcons.
Yeah.
The Atlanta Hawks are gonna be. Why would you do that to a person? You pick the same major city, then you make them both.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Which apparently, I didn't know this, but I heard this recently, that the St. Louis Cardinals had an NFL team called the same thing. That were in the same city at the same time.
That was in Arizona, yeah.
No, I thought it was in St. Louis.
Well, it was in St. Louis, but then they moved.
Now they're
have been everywhere.
Yeah, they're in Arizona now. But apparently, St. Louis had a baseball and a football team, both named the Cardinals at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's wild because they were in St. Louis initially. Because I think technically, their franchise is the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh yeah.
And then they went from St. Louis, and then they were in Chicago or something. Why? No, maybe it was Chicago. Then I don't know. I'm gonna start saying stuff that I'm not positive on, but I know that the franchise I think started in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And they went all over the world. So
I think it did too.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Not the world, but you know what I meant. Good talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going all over the place. Now we're gonna get back. I think Atlanta's got a lot to offer. I think that Trae Young isn't going to take a step forward, but he's going to get better as a facilitator, which he's already great at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm just excited. Atlanta is on the up and up. I don't know why. I've just got a feeling in my belly.
Fair enough. I think, a lot of people were saying that thing about the same thing about this season. Obviously, they struggled with injuries early on and stuff. But yeah.
They've got Clint. Clint is going to carry them to the promised land indirectly. His presence.
Yeah, I guess I have some reservations about the Atlanta Hawks, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. I hope it's not the bottom. Actually, I don't even care. You're wrong. Okay, let's do this thing. Going on to the next tier. Logan, do I lead us? What do we want to do?
Do you want to recap yours really quick?
Oh, that's big brain. So I had the Phoenix Suns, the Dallas Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets, the OKC Thunder, and the Hotlanta Hawks.
Okay.
as my dark horse tier.
Yeah, and then so I guess you lead us off with the next tier also.
So here are the teams that I have in the playoff chase. So these are teams that I viewed as like the teams that will I think will be fighting for playoff spots.
Mm-hmm.
So not surprisingly, a lot more of them are in the West than the East. Anyway, Orlando Magic. I think that they looked good in the bubble. They made the playoffs this year. I think they will continue to push towards that and will be a potential playoff team.
Mm, yeah.
The Memphis Grizzlies. And did you already bring up Memphis?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so we can go into Memphis a lot more in depth on yours because I got like 7 teams in this tier, but Memphis is just Triple J and John Morant are very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Is the quick way to say it.
Yeah, for sure.
Houston, and this one is a weird because Houston, if nothing changes, I think James Harden could carry them to be a playoff potential for that 8th seed in the West.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We've talked about this off the podcast and maybe a little bit we talked about yesterday, when we weren't recording or after. The whole entirety of Houston as we know it could get exploded.
Mm-hmm.
The Houston Rockets could be oh wow. Never the Houston Rockets could just be blown up, totally different.
Houston,
James Harden could be gone.
Houston, we have a problem.
Houston, we have a problem.
Yep.
So yeah, I think Houston could get I think that they could change a lot. Coaching wise, I think that they will struggle without having
D'Antoni
there. And so I don't think that they can get a guy that can fill their personnel.
Mm-hmm.
See them struggle. So
yeah.
This is way too early. The offseason could totally change this because Houston could draw a nice name in and then get another guy. But they lost Daryl Morey too, so I'm just Houston's a scary thing for me.
Yeah, for sure.
We're
3 for 3 so far though. I have the 3 that you just named, those teams, they're in this tier for me too. So
cool.
Yeah.
The Utah Jazz. I have them in this tier, which you had in the tier above.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm not as, pretty much how you said, I'm just not as high on them as you are.
Mm-hmm.
The same reasons as why I like them to make the playoffs, but I don't know if they have a push to win a championship.
Yeah.
Granted, my tiers are all sorts of weird. Anyway,
it's okay.
The Pelicans, I'm very confident where I put New Orleans after this hire. Bang, playoff chase. I think they'll be a good playoff team. We'll maybe see Zion not play a quarter of the season. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Yeah, so I they're a young team with kind of nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
Portland for Damian Lillard, kind of similar to the reason Houston would be here. I think Damian Lillard will carry them to a playoff game. I kind of forgot that they didn't have full strength. I forgot they didn't have Zach Collins, and they didn't have a lot of their pieces when they were that 8th seed in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So I forgot about that a little bit when I was making this. But I still like where I have them. I think they're probably more likely to make the playoffs than this next team I'm going to say. But, yeah. Philly's garbage. That's it. I don't like Philly. Everything about them is bad. Doc Rivers wasn't a bad hire. They need to blow their team up or else they're not going to get anything done. The end. That's my playoff chase. So, to wrap that tier up, I just don't like Philly. I think one of their big pieces needs to leave for them to actually be a legitimate dark horse playoff contender type of thing for me.
Yeah.
And then I had Orlando, Memphis, Houston, the Jazz, New Orleans, Portland, and Philly.
Okay. All right. Well, not a bad tier, honestly. Not as hot takey as the last one, I would say.
Yeah.
But to start off this tier, I have Phoenix. And they're the clear number 1 on this tier for me.
Okay.
I would say probably either them or Orlando. But yeah, so Phoenix, like you said, Devin Booker, he's a magical offensive player. He's got pretty decent pieces around him as well. Kelly Oubre is a talented player in his own right. Fit wise though, when they did switch off, which I guess they didn't just take him out. He got injured. He wasn't playing with them in the bubble, and they had Cam Johnson starting instead. But with that starting lineup, they played so much better, and went on an 8-game, 8-0 tear. And, just fit-wise with the spacing that Cam Johnson provides, also being at least as adequate defender as Kelly Oubre is, it just does wonders for that team. But the thing that scares me is whether or not Kelly Oubre kind of accepts a role coming off the bench, or even if Monty Williams decides to make an adjustment like that. And also, obviously, the other thing that scares me is the conference that they play on. That's just a very, very loaded Western Conference where it seems like everybody is in win now mode, except for a couple teams that are potential tanking teams that I'll get to later on. But and then they also have DeAndre Ayton, who's a guy that I was a bit lower on last year than I was this year, which I think most people were. Just because last year in his rookie season he really showed to be not a very good defensive player, but this year he's really stepped up on that end. That's where most of his improvement has been. And he's really kind of turning into an all-around, pretty good just center in general. Does a little bit of everything, kind of like a Yusuf Nurkic mold, where he's not super great at one thing. He's just really good at a lot of things. And so I'm excited for that pairing with D-Book and DeAndre Ayton. And Phoenix is just a sizzling young team right now. So that's why I have them here. And then Memphis, kind of similar reasons. I just think they're probably a step below where Phoenix is at, but they did end up in this category for me as well. Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr., super good pairing. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a really nice Swiss Army knife defender type mold that's going to, I think, work on his three-point shot. He already is a league average three-point shooter, but I think he's really going to become a volume shooter as he goes along. He can rim run. Doesn't rebound super well, but he is, I think, a really developing young talent to go alongside Ja. I think they do have something really special there in Memphis, and they really lucked out moving up in the lottery and getting that second pick for Ja, because I don't know where they would be at right now if they didn't if they didn't get that pick.
No, for sure.
But yeah, so they got a developing young competitive squad. They got Brandon Clark, who I love. He was an amazing rookie last season, one of the best. Well, this season it feels like a long time ago, but just a really good team. But again, what scares me away from them, the conference they play in. It's you can't have there's only 8 spots in the West, and there's at least 14 teams that I like. Or at least 13 or 14 teams that I like in the West of they could make a push for the playoffs, but it's there's only 8 that will end up there. And so that brings me to Houston, who you had on this list as well. Houston, I literally, in my notes, all I have by their name is just 2 question marks, because I have no clue how to even talk about them. They've lost Mike D'Antoni and Daryl Morey, which is basically Daryl Morey's the Houston Rockets identity, really, and Mike D'Antoni's enhanced that identity over the last few seasons, and they've just lost that completely. James Harden was the engine of everything that they did there with those basketball minds behind it, and I have no idea where they go from here. I can't see another coach replicating what they've done, and I can't see with the roster construction the way it is how you can win playing a different style. And honestly, they don't have a lot of moves they can make other than moving off of their superstars, like James and Russ, which I think for sure Russ is probably going to be moved somewhere. Actually, no, I take that back. I don't know which one gets moved.
I don't know who wants him. That's my thing with this team. James Harden still has value for how much
oh yeah, he does.
Russell Westbrook's not a bad player, but
his contract is definitely a negative. You're right, but
the teams that we'll talk about on the bottom are the only teams that want
him.
Yeah,
no, exactly. New York Knicks honestly have been a team that I've heard rumors of that they are interested in a trade for Russell Westbrook.
Just Russell Westbrook will just cry. He wants to win so bad.
Yeah, he does. But I guess there is the factor of playing in Madison Square Garden that some players might like, but
The owner is James Dolan.
Yeah. But the move there is that the Knicks are just trying to get a star there, to sell more tickets in this time that is very sad for all Knicks fans.
They have the Canadian maple syrup Mamba. They have Kevin Knox, Fort Knox, baby. Don't forget Dennis Smith Jr. is still technically there.
Yeah.
My point is, players go there and any potential they have dies.
Yeah,
It's like in 2K, reverse training camp. You can send them to put untapped potential? It's called tapped potential.
Yeah.
And it's playing for the Knicks.
Wow. Honestly, that's a really good take. I like that. That was really good. I backed that strongly. The roster construction. I guess we're talking about the Knicks now, but we okay. I'll get to them later on.
At the very end, no surprise to anyone. Oh my god. Sorry, go ahead.
So the next one I have is Sacramento. I think they're basically they fit the mold of what I was talking about with Phoenix and Memphis. They just have more question marks for me than the other teams do. Just because obviously there's the stuff going on right now with Buddy Hield apparently not answering any of Luke Walton's text or calls because he wants the F out of there. And I think there's plenty of teams that are going to be eyeing Buddy Hield.
The F stands for fast track, if you guys were wondering.
Yeah, that is what it stands for.
He wants the fast track out of there.
Who knows what happens with them? They were one of the hottest. I would call them. They were the hottest team at the end of the season, like before the shutdown.
The regular.
Yeah. They were winning lots of games in a row. They started off as the worst team in the NBA, and by like the last few weeks, they were on a tear, getting really hot, building momentum, and actually getting into the playoff chase discussion. Obviously, it could have gone very differently if the season didn't end the way it did. But yeah, honestly, I think De'Aaron Fox is a guy that slept on quite a bit. Ja has tons of hype around him. I think De'Aaron Fox. I don't think that Ja has proven that we should be any more high on him than we are on Fox. That might be a hot take, but I feel
that's not a hot take.
I just feel like he's provided everything that Ja has for Memphis. I think coaching situation for this year was awful. Also, roster construction, having a bit of feistiness within the organization and stuff. Vlade Divac stepping down and being kind of the arrogant guy that he is. It's a less good situation, less good stuff going on there in Sacramento around him. But as far as like pure talent goes, I think he's one of the fastest point guards in the league.
Yes.
Super athletic, really getting better in the half court in his scoring ability
wears
there.
Red shoes.
What?
Means he wears red shoes.
Yeah.
That means he's faster than everyone.
He has one of the coolest nicknames in the league, Swipe of the Fox. So,
last name, yeah, no, it's
yeah. But then, I'm really high on De'Aaron Fox. He's probably one of my favorite, like, underrated guys.
Yeah.
But then they also have Bogdanovich, the other one of the Bogdanoviches. I talked about the other one that's Bojan, who is on the Jazz. This one's on the Kings, and he does. They're pretty similar players in the fact that they do a lot of playmaking and shot creation. It's what they're really good at. And him moving into the starting role over Buddy Hield midway through the season last year is really what got them to, I think, start winning. Just not saying that Buddy Hield is not as good as Bogey, but just
I think
fit-wise.
One wanted to be there and one did not.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Like, there was a lot of factors. Because in terms of, like, caliber of players, like, I don't want to call them the same, but they're, like, in the same
ballpark, yeah.
If we were doing a tier list of players, I'd probably put them in the same tier.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, just one wanting to be there probably meant a lot type of thing. And wanting to prove for the starting lineup. So, yeah, I'm with you. I like to fit better. Mm-hmm. Anyway, sorry.
And then Harrison Barnes, who a lot of people forget is on the Kings.
Yeah.
But he is. And he's a solid 3-and-D guy. Which, actually, I think he might be a free agent this summer. No, he's not. He's on a big contract right now. I remember.
He's going back to Golden State.
Yeah. But Marvin Bagley also has been unproven so far. Just because, not because he hasn't played well on the court, it's because he hasn't been on the court very much. He's had a lot of injuries so far. And
but if he was in Philly, he's the next big thing. Just got to let him get healthy.
Yeah. We'll see, though. We'll see what Marvin Bagley turns into. I think, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Ja and Jaren Jackson Jr., just because they're two young point guard, forward, center hybrid. But yeah, so it'll be fun to see what happens there. Also, Rashawn Holmes, he was a good player this season.
Very good for them.
Yeah, Bielitsa is a good stretch four off the bench. I like Sacramento. I don't know how I feel about their head coach and Luke Walton, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Indiana is my next team, who they could go up for me. Yeah.
No one wants to be there. Victor wants to be gone. Miles Turner wants to be gone. Nobody wants to be there.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let me.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
no.
Sorry.
That's okay. I don't see that as a terrible situation there, just because I think they do have an enticing new coach, for sure.
Yes.
And they also have Malcolm Brogdon, who a lot of people forget about, who was.
Isn't he leaving?
No.
Is he not a free agent?
No, this is his first year on contract.
Oh, I'm a potato.
He signed.
Oh, I'm so dumb.
No, it's okay. But Brogdon, who a lot of people forget, was almost an all-star this year. He had some votes.
That means literally nothing.
Yeah.
Joe Cowley makes voting mean literally nothing.
He had some votes from some people who I respect. I'll say it that way.
Reputable.
Yeah. And then Domantas Sabonis took a huge leap this year. Proved that he can be somebody that you can initiate offense through. Can stretch the floor a bit. Really good defensively. Provides just a lot of things. I think he's a piece that they're going to keep moving forward. And I think just Brogdon and Sabonis alone is a good pairing in this Eastern Conference to fight for a playoff spot. And also TJ Warren, who turned into Michael Jordan in the bubble. We know he is a bucket getter. He's been that his whole career. Probably not sustainable to the extent of what he was in Orlando in the bubble, but I think he still will be that kind of spark plug type of player for them. Jeremy Lamb is a nice piece that they have there as a 3-and-D guy. Who else? They got Miles Turner, who I think they will flip into something valuable. Justin Holiday, Aaron Holiday, the two not as good Holiday brothers, but they're still good basketball players.
Okay, this is the real question.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday in a 1v2, who wins? Drew versus Aaron and
Justin.
Justin.
1v2? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I would say the younger brothers. I would choose them.
You think so?
Yeah.
You don't think Drew's got it in the bag?
I feel like a 2-on-1 would I don't know.
There is a really cool picture that somebody found, and it was like an insignificant picture because like it was like the holidays. Like nobody's like, oh, that's such a. But it was like all three brothers, like both the brothers were in, and they were trying to block Drew Holiday. It was just a cool picture. Anyway.
Yeah. I think Justin's the middle one. He's like kind of a bench piece. But Aaron, I think he was a rookie last season. I think he can turn into something. He has some potential. Nice young point guard for them. So, and then obviously Victor Oladipo, who will definitely get some return. There's going to be a market for Victor Oladipo, especially with the contract he's on, being not a whole lot for what he was before injury. So I definitely, if he is going to be traded, which I assume he will, then I think they will get pretty reputable return on that. And so I think Indiana's just in a pretty good spot. Not great, but not bad. And they're in the East, so I think they will be in the playoffs. That would be my prediction. And so that's why they end up on this tier for me. And then Pelicans is my next team, which is another team that I am pretty uncertain about going into this season just because, who we were just talking about, Drew Holiday. If I had to place a bet on who's getting moved this season, I'd put Chris Paul 1, which I'll get into later. That's one of the reasons why we kind of really differ on OKC. And I'd put Drew Holiday either second or third on who gets traded this season. just because there's lots of teams that want Drew Holiday right now. And also New Orleans moving forward makes a lot of sense to move off of him and try to build around their future with, trying to build around the two, definitely the two guys that they want to be building around right now is obviously Zion and Brandon Ingram, who are 20 and 22. And, Drew Holiday being, I think, 31 this upcoming season is not really in that ballpark at all. And I just think it makes sense that they move off of him, and there's going to be lots of deals for him. Bradley Beal's another person I would throw up in that list of people that might get moved, but I'd say Drew Holiday's even more likely than Bradley Beal, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then next I have Orlando, Vucevic, which I probably should have mentioned them higher up. I've been kind of doing these tier, like I've been like putting the ones I like more higher. But so Orlando.
So you liked
higher.
Boston, like third most in the NBA?
Yes.
Oh, You're higher than I am.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we get a big man yet. Anyway, we don't need to backtrack. Sorry.
But yeah, Orlando. Vucevic and Fournier are nice offensive pieces. Jonathan Isaac is a developing young talent. He's developing into an elite defender, I would say. And a lot of people would also say that. Hopefully he can come back from these knee injuries that he's had. Aaron Gordon is a really nice two-way player. He's a really, really frustrating player, though. Seems like he really hasn't hit his ceiling yet, what it could be, but we'll see. Nevertheless, he is a nice body to have on their team. Fultz is also developing out of the shadows of where he was existing before. But yeah, Markelle Fultz honestly has a bit of a tantalizing future, possibly, if he does keep going into this upward trajectory. And then Mo Bamba also. There's some untapped potential there, I would say. He hasn't seen the floor too much so far in his career. He struggled with injuries. Some people have given up on Bamba. Some people haven't. I just think he's interesting or enticing, to say the least. So,
for sure.
But yeah, so to recap, that is Phoenix, Memphis, Houston, Sacramento, Indiana, New Orleans, and Orlando on this tier for me. So that rounds out my top 20. Which I didn't mean to round it, like make it exactly 20, but
wow.
this is my top 20 so far. But yeah, you go.
No way.
What?
Same.
Really?
Hold on, I'm bad at math. 7, 5, 6, 1. 7. I'm just stupid. Sorry, I just got your hopes up.
What do you have in your top 3 tiers or 4 tiers?
No, I did. I forgot Milwaukee and the legit contenders. 7. Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
So your top 4 tiers have 20 teams, and so do mine.
They do. Yes.
Okay.
And my bottom 2 tiers, ergo, have 10.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Wild.
Yeah, dude. I just noticed I don't even have notes for the last 4 teams on here, but I don't care. Like I'll have stuff to say about them, but just because
I have
bottom, but, yeah.
Yeah. Same. Anyway, okay. Was I supposed to lead off the competitive, but not enough?
Actually, I think I am supposed to now.
Yep.
Yeah.
All you.
Okay, so competitive but not enough is what I named this tier, just because I think these teams are going to be trying to win games, but they just don't have enough on their team to really make too much of a splash. So yeah, I'll top it off with, or start it off, I guess. Top it off would be the ending, I think. But anyways, San Antonio, the Spurs, that team, that made the playoffs 23 seasons in a row. Until last season or this season. But yeah, they've got obviously 2 of the best mid-range players in the league, kind of a dinosaur of a mold, but they do have them, and LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan. Marcus Aldridge is on the wrong side of 34 right now, but I think he has some years yet to be a starting level, player. DeMar DeRozan, He's 31, I think, right now. These are really off the top of my head, but I think they're pretty.
Okay, so LaMarcus will be 36.
Okay, yeah. And DeRozan, I think, is 31, but I could be wrong.
He is 31, and as of August 7th, he turned 31, so he will be 31 next season as well.
And so I think, what they were...
Oh, he's unhappy. Sorry, go ahead. All you.
He's unhappy? Is that what you said?
Yes, he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Oh, that makes sense. But, yeah, I was... That was part of kind of what I was going to get to. I didn't know that he was unhappy. That's so good reporting from you. But
that came out 9 hours ago.
Oh,
Pounding
really?
the Rock.
Oh, yeah. I listen to that podcast sometimes. But DeRozan, what they were trying this year in the bubble was pretty interesting. Pretty much running him at power forward. Because really what's scared me away from San Antonio the past season now is their complete lack of shooting, like perimeter shooting. They really don't have hardly any, especially as far as their like rotation players go. They have a lot of really good young guards, like Lonnie Walker and DeJounte Murray and Derek White. Derek White is definitely the best shooter out of all these guys, but and Bryn Forbes is another guy I'd throw in there. But yeah, they just don't have a lot of shooting on the floor most of the time. But when they move DeRozan to power forward and having Aldridge at center, which they didn't have him in the bubble, but I'm assuming they will if they keep this roster as constructed, that's a way that I think they can win some games. And I think Popovich will win games just because that's, in Popovich's career at this point, I doubt that he's going to be tanking. He's definitely going to be trying to win. And, him being the GM also is going to be making the roster moves as well. So
yep.
I could see them definitely moving off of DeRozan. I don't think there's a huge market for Aldridge right now.
Yeah.
But DeRozan, you could get some pieces back to help build around their future moving forward, and hopefully get some more shooting around them. Also, Derek White is another guy that I've apparently have heard that there's some GMs in the league interested in acquiring via trade. So that could be something that they move off of because he's a little bit older than their timeline for the rest of their guys like Walker and DeJounte Murray. So that could make some sense. But yeah, it's just they have Popovich, one of the greatest coaches in NBA history. So I think they will be competitive. But yeah, this roster is a bit depressing for San Antonio fans as a whole.
Yeah.
So
I put him in the tier as well, but it was literally exclusively because of Popovich.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, their roster is good enough they can be competitive, but Popovich will,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then my next team is Minnesota, which is really kind of more opposite reasons than with the Spurs. Like with Minnesota, they have nice offensive talents on their team. So I think they will win some games. They'll, be scoring up in the 140s, 150s some games. But I just don't think they have enough to be competitive in this Western Conference. Like, at least not to where they're competing for a playoff berth. But I do think they will be trying to win games and not be tanking for this next season, especially because they don't even have their own pick for this next draft in 2021. I do think the Warriors have that. So yeah, I don't really see a reason for them to tank. But yeah, they've got obviously Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, and Malik Beasley.
The number 1 overall pick.
And the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft, which could be one of many different people, but probably
or an asset.
Oh,
like just somebody else.
Yeah, true. Which I've heard that both them and Golden State are both interested in moving off of their picks this season, which is really weird to see a draft where both of the top 2 teams are interested in moving.
Golden State should not be there.
Yeah, that's true.
I understand that technically, yes, they lost the games, but you have it's a potato.
Yeah. But yeah, so as far as offensive, they have enough scoring for sure. They have D'Lo, Cat, and Malik Beasley, who has shown to be a very nice talent that Denver misused thoroughly We basically put him into the game as a spot-up shooter sometimes, and guy that could come in and make some cool blocks and dunks, just because of how athletic he is. But yeah, Mike Malone. I'm not gonna blame Mike Malone just because we had a lot of guys like that. Denver had drafted very well for a few seasons in a row, so couldn't fit everybody in there, and so that's why we basically dumped some of our nice young players because we had to pick between who we liked the best. And we moved off of Malik Beasley and sent him to
and Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, that's true, and Yusuf Nurkic. But yeah, so he ended up in Minnesota. I think he played because it was at the trade deadline, so he played probably 15 games or something like that with Minnesota, because they didn't play in the bubble at all. But he averaged 21 points a game in his games with Minnesota, so he really popped off. And I would be definitely seeing him as a guy that can make a jump this next season. But yeah, like I said, not a whole lot of defense on that team. So yeah, that's why they kind of end up here for me. And then the next team, very, very similar situation. And this is a team that you've talked about already, Atlanta. They really fit the same mold for me as Minnesota, which I probably should put Atlanta higher than Minnesota just because they are in the East. So I definitely do think they have a much better chance of making the playoffs than Minnesota does. But yeah, so they have Trae Young, who is a very tantalizing, young talent, offensive juggernaut. But defensive metrics painted him as the absolute worst defender in the league last season, and also the worst defender of the past 40 seasons.
Doesn't matter when you're dropping 40 a game.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see about that. This past season, that was the thing with everybody. Coming into the season, they were Atlanta's a nice team to be looking to make that 8 or 7 spot in the East, and they ended up really towards the bottom of the East, just because of their complete lack of defense, which they did end up adding a defensive piece at the deadline in Clint Capella. But Clint Capella fits in really kind of weird there, I feel like, just because they do have a lot of depth there at the center or at the big man position in John Collins and Clint Capella and Bruno Fernando, Alex Len, and some other people. But yeah, obviously I think Clint Capella is going to be starting games for them. And also it's a bit clunky in the way that they wanted Clint Capella there to be the pick and roll, the roll man for Trae Young, because that is something that Trae Young is very good at, is being a pick and roll player. But that's basically what John Collins has been for them so far in Trae Young's career. And so then what are you doing with John Collins at that point? You're moving him to the corner. I just don't see John Collins' value. If you're playing Capella the way that you should play Capella, I think John Collins is going to take a huge dent this year in his production, just because I don't see really how he's going to fit alongside those guys in that way. But who knows? They could move off of him. He could adapt and play very differently. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, I guess there's just those types of things that scare me off of Atlanta. But I do think it's fun that you put them up in the tier that you did. I like this. This is fun. My next team on here, and you'll be surprised by this next team on where I have them.
So.
I have them ranked 24th out of 30, and that is the New York Knicks.
What the act? No.
They could definitely land an aging star via trade this year, which would make them competitive. If they add Russell Westbrook, they are going to be competitive. If they add Chris Paul, they're going to be competitive. If they add, I don't know, pick a name, Paul George, something like that. Who knows? Even if not, they added Tom Thibodeau as the head coach this year, which he's never been a loser. And I don't suspect that
he's also never technically been a winner either.
That's true, but he has a very good win percentage as a coach. And he gave Minnesota their best years by far the past 15 years, while he was the head coach there. So I see them being much more competitive than they were this year. I don't see them in the bottom 5 in the league as far as win total goes.
I do.
Obviously, you could say that their future is still a dumpster fire and worse than the teams that might end up below them. But I think they will be better than some of the teams that I'm going to talk about next. Just because, Thibodeau is a winner. They do have pieces on their team. They just have horrible fit, horrible roster construction. Looks like it was put together by a 9-year-old playing 2K.
I bet you his gamer tag was "I'm James Dolan."
Well, he's not the GM, so you can't really blame that.
I blame him for everything.
Okay. All of the problems with the Knicks can probably be traced back to James Dolan. I'm not denying that. I do think I am of the party that he needs to sell the team.
No, I think that they need to add some clause, and it'll literally pass 29-1 with the NBA owners. That if your team is bad enough for like 20 years, you have to sell the team.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But I get that they own the team. They put their hard-earned money in. Like, I understand that, and that's not fair to have it ripped from them.
Yeah, but it ruins the product for everybody else.
It ruins the product.
Yeah.
And the only thing that makes the Knicks literally not be gone is because of where they're at.
Yeah, and they're still the most valuable franchise in the league.
It's literally only because of what. Oh my!
Yeah.
It's so tragic.
It's like not just the sheer size of New York, but also the fact that New York is such a basketball city.
It is basketball,
and it just really sucks for New Yorkers that they've had to deal with this for so long.
Remember when Amari Stoudemire and Melo were going to lead them to the NBA Finals?
Yeah, that was something that 10-year-old me was actually excited about. But yeah, did not happen. Amari Stoudemire did not last like 4 or 5 months on that team as the same Amari Stoudemire that he had been.
In Phoenix.
Yeah, so, and Melo was, good, but not number one option on a championship team level, as much as it pains me to say, as the Melo stan that I am. But, yeah. So, I'm sorry, Knicks fans. I do sympathize with you a little bit just because I am a big Melo fan, so I did follow him to New York a little bit. They were my favorite Eastern Conference team for quite a long time. But, yeah, sad world that they live in. My next team, and this is my last team on this tier, competitive but not enough, is Chicago. And, they have Zach LaVine, who... a lot of people might talk about him as like a good stats, bad team type of guy, which I can definitely see an argument for. But I have heard from like numerous stars, like superstars in the league, that Zach LaVine's like one of their favorite young players. Like Kevin Durant has said that like Zach LaVine has it. Like he thinks that he has what it takes to be a legitimate superstar in this league. And so stuff like that kind of gives you hope for him. And then also they have enticing young players in Lauri Markkanen, obviously, and Wendell Carter Jr., who I'm really high on. I think he's a baby Al Horford. Honestly, I think that's really what his skill set could turn into, Wendell Carter. But, they got good young pieces, and I'm intrigued by the hiring of Billy Donovan. I thought Jim Boylan was not a really good fit there. And I think Billy Donovan has shown in the past that he does really well with young developing talent. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm intrigued by Chicago to an extent. But yeah, obviously they do end up lower than the Knicks for me, so not too much. But yeah, so that's my tier there. So I guess I'll recap really quick. I have San Antonio, Minnesota, Atlanta, New York, and Chicago.
Yep, and so for me, I'm going to kind of run through mine a little bit quicker because we kind of already talked about a lot of the same teams in mine. I've also got Minnesota, Sacramento, and Chicago. Chicago, I like them for a different reason, is I think that they are going to get one of these guys that's quote-unquote going to be traded. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they are a landing spot that a lot of teams might like the assets that Chicago has, and will be like, I feel like they might be a big trade destination, or we'll hear oh, Ben Simmons to Chicago. Oh.
Yeah.
Like people like, I mean Russell Westbrook. Like I don't know if you've like, the Chicago's a place where I feel like they have assets to try and go get a big guy that would make them very competitive.
Yeah, and plenty of people would like to play in Chicago. You know, it's kind of it's a miniature version of what we were talking about with the Knicks. Like Chicago is a big market, a big basketball market. You know, it's really,
except their owner doesn't hate you as a player.
True.
But yeah,
it's really New York, Los Angeles, Boston, and Chicago are the really biggest markets in the NBA. And they're a storied franchise as well. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I had Detroit as the last team. So I have Sacramento, Minnesota Bulls, and the Spurs in this tier.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also have Detroit.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think that just Blake Griffin, point forward Blake Griffin, if he stays there, and Drummond. Now Drummond's gone.
Yeah, he's on the Cavs.
I almost had Luke Kennard. You know, that's who's going to do it for him.
They got Luke Kennard, Christian Wood, who was a breakout guy this season.
I just feel like they'll be able, and I didn't know what you meant by competitive. I meant like, so there a couple years ago, like Ben Simmons was playing Fortnite with like Cat or something, and then they asked Cat, who you playing, and then he said like Atlanta.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you don't need to go to bed, like as like a joke, like they're trash. That's what I viewed. This was above that level. So teams that were above that, I put into this tier.
That's fair.
That's why I put Detroit here.
That's fair.
Because if you were an NBA player, you'd want to get your rest before the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I like labeled. That's how I split that level, that exact moment of if two NBA guys were playing video games together.
That's a good line.
And then somebody asks, "Who you playing tomorrow?" He goes, "Atlanta." You don't need to go to bed. Anyway,
that's a good one.
I think I got the players right. I might have it wrong. Anyway. Yeah. So I had to wrap up again: Sacramento, Detroit, Minnesota, the Spurs, and the Bulls. So yeah, that leads us to the bottom feeders, the people that will be looking to try and snag the top pick in the next year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
That, for me, I have the Wizards down here.
Yep.
I feel like for obvious, like I don't need to really elaborate all that much. Bradley Beal wants to stay, I think.
Yeah,
but he'll probably be gone. Davis Bertans is probably gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't know, but it's definitely possible.
And you still got to pay John Wall. So, and I don't know if he's ever going to play basketball again, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
He will, but like it feels like he won't.
Mm.
I have
that's
accurate. That's why I have Washington. Charlotte.
Yep.
Terry Rozier was really good as a seventh man. And I don't know I didn't know you paid seventh man like
$60 million.
$26 million.
Yeah.
$60 million over 3 years, whatever the heck it was.
I think it was 4.
It was 4 years.
Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, too much.
I have Cleveland because I don't understand the whole, hey, let's get a bunch of let's make our backcourt or front court backcourt. Let's make our backcourt crazy and just ignore the rest of the team.
Mm.
So yeah, good job. Colin Sexton and Darius Garland are going to carry you to the promised land. Just kidding. I don't like Cleveland all that much. Indiana, I have down here.
Oh wow! Just because of the guys that went out.
This was before the head coach, and so many of their core pieces went out,
mm-hmm.
and I just don't. I don't know. I feel like they just won't have enough pieces.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like they will have enough to be able to like be competitive with people.
Yeah. So this is kind of the reverse of us with OKC. Like I'm lower on OKC than you are. I'm higher on Indiana than you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was also before the coach.
True. Yeah.
So that I'd probably bump him up a tier now, but I just kept going from what I had yesterday.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, before you get to yours, I have a 7th category. And it is James Dolan is your owner, which is below the teams that are trying for the number 1 pick. And that is the New York Knicks. So on the show, we have a little thing called the Corner of Shame.
Yep.
And right now, there's a guy named Joe Cowley from Chicago in it. He doesn't deserve a vote for all NBA teams or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I added somebody last week, didn't I?
Yeah, it was Detroit Lions.
The Detroit Lions as a whole. You're right.
Yeah. And then it wasn't Bill O'Brien, actually. It was Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
Now joining the corner of shame. Welcome to the club. I spaced on his name. I've said his name like
James
8 times.
Dolan.
James Dolan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to the corner of shame. I don't know if I have time. I'm gonna make a little infographic.
Yeah.
It's gonna be labeled "Corner of Shame,"
Yeah,
and it'll be all their faces, so you know. Welcome to the corner, James.
Yeah, I think he's in most people's corner of shame, probably. That's just a guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd assume so. Do you want to recap those really quick?
So yeah, in my bottom feeders tier, I have Washington, Charlotte, Cleveland, and Indiana. But Indiana's the top of this, arguably in the competitive with their new head coach. And then the Knicks are in the very bottom basement for me.
Yeah.
So the Knicks are a hard 30.
Uh-huh. Okay.
For me.
Okay, fair enough. So in this tier, for me, I did name it like possible tankers. So the way I was kind of thinking of it is like I could very well see these teams really not trying at all this season, not even trying to be competitive. One of these teams that fits in here, or actually really two of them, maybe even three, honestly, would be due to them like blowing it up, moving off of any of the pieces that are like in their prime and valuable right now, to get even younger than they are right now. I think these teams fit that mold kind of for me. There were some teams that also kind of were like that are higher up, but they have more young talent that are winning right now, like Phoenix and Memphis and teams like that. But yeah, the first team on the possible tankers list for me is OKC. And I really think in the conference they're in and the type of GM that Sam Presti is, he's moving off of Chris Paul. I highly doubt Gallo resigns there. They also might be moving off of Steven Adams. They very well could be. To just add more picks and get younger. And really flipping those future picks later on for when they do have a core of like, oh yeah, this team can get to the playoffs right now again. And really flipping those picks for talent to build around once they see exactly what direction they're going in, because right now they have Shea, also Dennis Schroeder is another guy I think they could move off of definitely really easily. Like those guys have markets for them, and I think Sam Presti, as far as like any GM we've seen in the recent history, always likes to explore any markets that there are for any players.
I understand that I had them in the dark horse category, but you're making a compelling argument, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I could see what you're saying. If the things happen not how like I'm saying, if Sam Presti's like, no, I'll just keep it the way it is, run it back, I definitely agree with what you're saying. But I think I'm just assuming what I think Sam Presti's thinking right now with just the construction of the West right now and also what he has in his bag. This might be the better move. And so I could see that happening. And really them just building around, they have Shea, they got Darius Baisley, Isaiah Roby, shout out, is on that team. But yeah, just younger guys, bringing in Lou Dort, Terrence Ferguson, Nerlens Noel is technically still there, I think. Yeah, he is. But he's a little bit he's like 25, 26. So, but yeah, they have pieces to move, pieces that people would like. And yeah, I guess I just think that there's going to be big moves for OKC this offseason, or even at the trade deadline or something like that. But I could see them being one of these teams that are in the West, one of the few teams in the West. It's like, okay, we'll sit this year out with all these guys, all these teams in win now mode. So yeah, that's why they end up there for me. And then Detroit. Detroit is pretty gloomy, I think, for Detroit right now. They have a pretty big Blake Griffin contract right now that honestly isn't as bad as people say, because he is still an effective guy that can help your team win, and he only has this year and next year left on his deal. So if you trade for him now, you'll have him this year, And next year, he becomes a very, very valuable piece for a trade because teams all over the place love expiring contracts. That means you get that guy on that contract just for this year. And after this year, he's off your books. It's like a rental. You're renting this player. And teams love to get expiring contracts. So if like the Warriors, like we were talking about before, flip some of their stuff, like flip Wiggins and the second overall pick in a deal to get Blake Griffin, that could definitely happen because then, Blake Griffin helps them win now, and he also provides something for them next year in either a trade and also still being, I think, 32, 33 by that time, like the end of his contract. So I think he's going to have still production left to give. And so I do think that he's probably not staying in Detroit, but who knows? They did move off of Andre Drummond for absolutely nothing, so who knows how much they're going to get out of Blake Griffin. But yeah, they don't have too many bright spots there. Derrick Rose is another guy that's had rumors about him getting moved. They have basically Luke Kennard to move forward with and Christian Wood, but Christian Wood is a unrestricted free agent this offseason, so he's not even guaranteed, coming back. And he's going to get paid this offseason. He's going to make bank being a prototypical like big man rotation player that a lot of teams are going to want. He's a super good defender, and he stretches the floor. That's really like a 3-and-D big man, which this reminds me of Serge Ibaka again, which I talked about before. But something I didn't know that happened this season with Serge Ibaka, I just want to throw this in there. He apparently was the first player ever this last season. He reached 15,000 career points and 5,000 blocks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No player has ever done that. Or wait, no, it wasn't that. Well, you might have to check this. It wasn't points. I'm pretty sure it had to do with blocks and 3-pointers. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's Okay. He has the most blocks and 3-pointers. Like he's reached the milestones in blocks and 3-pointers that no other player ever has. Which literally paints him as a 3-and-D big man. And that's what he is, and that's a very valuable piece right now in the NBA. Like a Brook Lopez, but I'd say even better. So just thought I'd throw that in there just because Serge Ibaka, I think, deserves some love. He was like talked about a lot when he was in Oklahoma City, but he doesn't get much press anymore. But yeah. And then Washington. Are you looking that up, Jacob? The Serge Ibaka thing? You are? Okay. So yeah, just budge in whenever you find it.
Yep, I'm looking. It's like it's weird because like it's not like something that people are like.
I can't remember where I saw it. I think it was on Twitter.
So it's
maybe.
Like blocks and threes.
Yeah. Maybe just look up how many blocks and threes he has, and that might remind me, because I'm pretty sure it was like 15 and 500, but 15 blocks sounds like a lot.
The first
1,500.
team.
Oh, sorry.
It's 1,500 blocks and 500 threes.
Yeah. 1,500 blocks and 500 threes. The first player in NBA history apparently to reach that.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah. But yeah, that's like the two most obviously like the two most representative stats of like being a 3-and-D center. So that'd be cool. Or I'm excited for wherever he goes this offseason. I think it'd be cool, especially if he goes to the Celtics. Anyways, I don't know why I started talking about that. Probably because I was talking about Christian Wood, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the Pistons. But yeah, Detroit's just sad land. Not a whole lot going on there. That's why they kind of end up here for me. I don't think they're going to be competitive this year, to be honest. I think they're going to be trying to put stuff together to make a future for this Detroit franchise, which I'm rooting for them because, I mean, I guess I don't have any problems with Detroit, and they've been bad for a little while now. So, yeah. And then Washington is the next team. And, like, there's a lot of people doubting that a Bradley Beal trade is happening this season. I'm somebody who I'm more like 60-40 on it. Like 60% of me thinks that it will happen. 40% thinks it doesn't. So I'm kind of banking on a Bradley Beal blow-up trade for them to end up here for me. Otherwise, if they do keep Bradley Beal and they basically run it back, I think they might end up a tier higher for me just because Bradley Beal's that good, especially in this Eastern Conference, to at least end up somewhere close to where they did last season, being like the 9 or 10 seed. So, yeah. And then Charlotte, very similar type of thing, but they don't have Bradley Beal. they don't have a guy like that. They got Terry Rozier, they've got Devontae Graham. PJ Washington is a pretty enticing young player. But yeah, not a whole lot else. I forgot to mention with Washington, John Wall, like you did. I'm rooting for him. I'm a John Wall fan. I would consider myself like, I don't know. I wouldn't say fan because that's like somebody who would buy his jersey and stuff like that. I'm not to that level, but like I enjoy me some John Wall.
I like the song by who was that?
Troop 41, I think.
Troop 41.
Yeah.
Flex to the left, throw some money at your head. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a
totally
banger. Different time. It is a banger.
Yeah. But yeah, Davis Bertans, floor stretching big. Rui Hachimura I think he has a bright future as a 3-and-D type of guy. Yeah, but not much else going on there. I would say I might be forgetting about somebody. Moritz Wagner is another kind of nice stretch big man. But yeah, Charlotte, like I said, not a whole lot going on there. Also, not too much to talk about with neither of these teams. But I think they're both teams I could very easily see them being tankers, even though it's always been Michael Jordan's philosophy never to tank. And that, I think I would argue, that's what has kind of hurt Charlotte over the years. Has been stuck in mediocrity, stuck in like the 12 through 6 seed area for repeatedly over the past like 20 years. Like not being able to get very high draft picks that they hit on very often, other than Kemba. It was like the only one that that was like the 10th pick. And yeah, other than that, they don't hit on anybody, and all the contracts they give out are to guys that nobody else would give that much money to, like Nick Batum, and stuff like that. So that's why they end up where they are for me. But yeah, I think you had them in this range too, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Yeah, you did, I think.
I did have them.
And then this is the last team in the league for me, number 30, and that's Cleveland. I think they move off of Kevin Love this year, and I really root that they do, just for Kevin Love's sake. You said a great point about them really building around the point guard position, or just building up the point guard depth on that team like way too much. I would say that's definitely true, but they also do it with their centers, the big men. They have Larry Nance, they have Kevin Love, they have Andre Drummond now. How are those guys supposed to play on the floor at the same time, or at least in 48 minutes dispersed amongst them? Larry Nance is going to be having to play some 3 this season, which he did last season. He played some minutes on the floor at 3, which is just crazy to think about. If they continue with this roster, that will have to happen. If they want the best guys to be on the floor. They're only really wings. I guess I don't have their roster up in front of me right now, but they got Kevin Porter Jr., who's he's got some potential. I've heard he has some like attitude problems and stuff, but who knows? Well, there's definitely probably people who know, but yeah, they don't have much else though, I feel like, at the wings. So they're really kind of stuck with. They got Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, obviously, as their 2-point guards that they drafted back-to-back years, who don't really fit well alongside each other. Just obviously. Even when they drafted Garland, I was kind of like, why? I'm not even a Cleveland fan, but I was kind of like mad. I was like, why would you do that? Like, it doesn't make sense. You could have picked somebody. You could have picked, I don't know, Jarrett Culver, or somebody like that. Somebody that makes sense to go alongside who you picked last year, and Colin Sexton, who didn't have a bad rookie season. And you've given up just a bad hand now to Darius Garland, who did not have a very good rookie season, just because he's just not in a really good situation. But yeah, So who knows with Cleveland? I think they're the worst team in the NBA right now. But not in terms of the amount of talent they have, but the combination of the amount of talent they have along with the fit. Like, they don't have a lot of talent, and even the talent they have doesn't fit alongside each other. So that's why they end up at the bottom for me. And to review, I have on this bottom possible tankers tier, OKC, Detroit, Washington, Charlotte, and Cleveland.
Yes. Good. Bad teams.
So,
This is a long one.
Yeah, this is a long one, but I'm okay with it. It's been really fun to do.
Been good. It's been fun to do. Do we want to split this into 2 episodes? So the people get 2 days of content? You can cut all this. This is just trying to talk.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't matter to me.
Because it's like 3 hours long.
I think it's going to be a little bit shorter, but...
Yo, yeah, 100%. But like...
I think I can probably get it to around 2.5 hours, but...
I still have hot takes with Jacob and the Raptors.
Oh, true. Maybe we'll just do the first... we'll do the first episode of NFL and GOAT Talk, and then this episode will be the the power rankings and hot takes with Jacob.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
And you don't have to if you like it as it flows all together.
Yeah,
that works too.
I guess I'll see. But one more question though before we move on to from the power rankings. So I heard your response a little bit with OKC, but I guess what were your thoughts after I gave my case of why I put OKC where I did?
It's just a compelling argument.
Mm-hmm.
I get that Sam Presti is part of the team. Yeah, no, like, because obviously he's the GM and he is a very, I can get better for the future. You know what I mean? Almost all the time. So
also, they don't have a coach right now, like you said before, too. So
yeah. I forgot about that. It's okay.
Yeah. Who knows though? They could. They're one of those teams that is very high variance for me too, though. Yeah. Like Cleveland, I know is going to be down here. Yes. Knicks, I highly doubt are any higher than I put them, and if anything, they're lower. And things like that. But OKC is a team that I could see as low as I put them, and if not, they're higher. So. But yeah. Got to pump some energy into the last little segment of this.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right, so for the dear folks that have listened all the way to the end, this is the part that we have reserved for our, fan favorite segment that we are implementing on this podcast, and that is Hot Takes with Jacob.
Hot Takes with Jacob. Here we go. So this week's Hot Takes with Jacob is sponsored by my coworker Lamine. Thank you for sponsoring Hot Takes with Jacob this week. And if you'd like to be the sponsor for next week, contact us at nmu.podcast@gmail.com. That is our podcast email. If you have any kind of business inquiries, because of this podcast has all the potential in the world, get it on the ground floor and be the sponsor for Jacob's Hot Takes. Anyway, thank you, Lamine, for being this week's sponsor. This week's hot take is, but at the beginning of the season, everybody was saying that Bill Belichick and Tom Brady needed each other. Like, who needed who, all this type of stuff. Oh, Belichick won't be nothing without Brady. Brady won't be nothing without Belichick. Back and forth. My hot take is that both of these men are great at what they do. Undisputed. But the person that needed someone wasn't Bill Belichick. Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, is who needed Tom Brady to be relevant. That's my hot take.
This went in a very different direction than I thought it was going. I was confused for a second.
Josh McDaniels. And people go, what do you mean? He's a multiple Super Bowl time offensive coordinator. Oh, remember those 2 years he left? He got fired week 12 by the Broncos or week 13? He went 8-8 and 3-9. Like, that's not anything special.
Nope.
But when you put Tom Brady in the mix, all of a sudden, we're pretty good. And people are already saying Tom Brady pretty much ran the offense anyway. Ergo, Josh McDaniels needed Tom Brady to be relevant, and Josh McDaniels will not be the next. A lot of people speculate, including myself, that Josh McDaniels was going to be the next head coach of the Patriots after Belichick retires, but it is not going to be Bill Belichick. It is going to be a different Belichick.
Oh.
His son is going to be the next head coach of the Patriots. And whenever Bill Belichick decides to be done coaching, Steven is the one. Yeah, Steven.
Yeah.
And if you want to see a picture of Steven Belichick, you will love your life. Google this man. He is absolutely a unit. He's got a mullet, a man's beard, and he loves Patriots football as much as I do. Anyway, that's hot takes. Josh McDaniels should be fired. Thank you for listening. Okay, he shouldn't be fired, but...
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is what Steven Belichick looks like. I feel like I could see him on the side of the street with like a trench coat and holding a jar begging for money.
Interesting.
But also, I could see him just getting lit and having a good time. Playing in a garage in a band on a steel drum.
Yeah.
He kind of goes all over the place with what you could see him doing. But yeah, I would agree that does make your life a little bit better.
Also, next thing I'd like to bring up before we get to hot takes is thank you for listening, those who did listen to this whole thing. We're not sure how this is going to look exactly. But we did not get any comments this last time, either tearing me down or building Logan up. And that is something that we need to work on. As a community, the next man uppers, the I don't know. We'll think of a fun. We can think of like a fun.
The next men
name.
up.
The next. Oh my goodness! It's like it's in the title. Woo! Anyway, next men up, men and women up out there. Leave a comment, subscribe, hit the like button, follow the Spotify feed, live your best life. Anything else to add, Logan?
I guess no, not anything to add other than this was a really fun episode to do. It's really long. If you're listening to this as one episode, it might be two. Who knows? But it was a lot of fun. It was kind of a saga of a podcast that stretched over 24 hours to make, and probably even more than that because there's editing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun, and you'll hear this pretty soon, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And with that, we bid you adieu. Adios, amigos!